teacher last year. Completed my 200-hour yoga teacher training, and at the same time I was completing a bucket list project of life coaching. So I completed my life coaching certification, and I was like, life coaching, yoga, there's such a juicy crossover in the middle. One of my favorite that I'm looking at the moment and really excited about is the niyamas. And I'm so sorry, Sanskrit is obviously not my first language and I butcher it. Natasha, how do you feel about saying Sanskrit words?
Yes, I'm exactly the same. I prefer to stick to the alternative words that I do know in Hatha, because that's what I trained in. So just learning angle pose rather than the actual Sanskrit name is just easier. But I
get all up in my head and I'm like, I'm about to say the word, and I'm like, don't mess it up, and then it just comes blah out of my mouth. So please don't use anything that I say as pronunciation guide. But so in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, obviously there's the eightfold path to yoga, and there's the two main areas that I'm kind of personally really working on and looking at the moment is the yamas and the niyamas, there's a few different ways that I'm kind of I'm loving the how they work. So the yamas, to me, I'm kind of that stuff that you kind of want to take away, don't do, things to subtract from your life. So if you were to kind of explain, if you were trying to follow a healthy diet, that would be take out heavily processed foods, and then the niyamas are the good things to put in. So avocados.
Yes.
Do less of this, do more of that. That's kind of how I'm how my brain has categorized that. But I've also seen the yamas as being how you interact with society as a whole, and the niyamas about you personally, introspection. So I like those two ways of thinking of those. And for me, I'm really looking at how I can add in the niyamas into my own life personally. There's 5. One of them I'm not really going to talk about because I think it's really personal and spans a lot of things, and that's the connection to a higher power or God or however you refer to whatever you believe in. And the reason why I'm not going to talk about that is because I failed religious studies at school, so I'm not particularly great about talking about all religions, and I think it's really personal how you interact with what you believe in. But that being a good thing for you, whatever you believe in and however you feel connected to a wide to something bigger than yourself is an important thing to factor into your life, and whatever that means for you, great. That's where I'm going to start and end with on that one. But so there's the other 4. I'm just going to pick at random. This might even be the order that they're in, I'm not sure. But I'm going to have to say the word Socha.
That sounds familiar. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this one is cleanliness. And how these things apply to yoga obviously makes sense. So this is it means either purity or cleanliness. And so the idea is first and foremost your own personal if you're going to be practicing yoga have you ever done this? Have you ever done a yoga practice and you got stinky feet? I sometimes, especially in high summer, suffer with smelly feet, and then whenever you have to do anything where your face is near your any positions where your face is near your feet, and you're oh god.
Not very good. Not ideal. It's not an ideal situation.
So obviously,
a comment come in. I just wanted to read the comment quickly. So here I'm here for the topic. Oh, great, Chelsea, welcome. That's in Buddhism as well, yes. Source and love, a universe across the religions of the world. I don't really do yoga a lot. I'd love to do it more. Yes, I'd say, yeah, very beneficial for your health and well-being. But yeah, Buddhism is the part of the philosophy, isn't it? Including the koshas I've learned about. What got you into health and well-being? So let's start from the beginning. Let's go a little bit
sorry,
further.
I just launched straight in at 100 miles an hour, didn't I? I love the niyamas.
No, it's great. It's great. It's really nice to hear, and it's great to hear about the philosophy and everything. But let's go back to what actually got you into it in the first place, or where you started. What got you into health and well-being? Why did you want to follow that path?
What got me into my first yoga class? I couldn't even tell you. Just like curiosity. And then what kept me going was I just liked the way that my body felt afterwards. And I'm not like hyper athletic, so like to have a sport. It's not a sport, but I was like, that's my sport. And so yeah, I just kept it up, and I found different classes. And then after I have two little girls, and after I had my second, I had felt pretty down. I had a bit of the baby blues, and so I like had an assessment, and I was like put on the waiting list for cognitive behavioral therapy. And like once that happened, and that was quite a long waiting list, and as soon as that happened, I was like, do you know what? Yeah, like I need to take more control over the things that I can control that contribute to like my well-being and how I feel. And so whilst I was waiting for my CBT appointment to come through, I started doing mindfulness more regularly. That was one thing. I started doing yoga again. Like I'd kind of let it slip for a couple of years with having the kids, and I went to I signed up for like mum and baby yoga classes and stuff like that. And I had and I signed up for some life coaching. And then by the time I got my appointment for CBT, I was like discharged in the first session, because they were like, you're no longer clinically in requirement of having this, which is really great. You know, just like to me, I was like, right, that works. Like, oh my god, that works. Like scientifically, that works, because you have like to fill out these really huge questionnaire, like mental health assessments. So I was like, yeah. And so since then, I've really committed to doing it. I like to do. I like to go all in on stuff. Like, you've probably picked that up just in the first 10 minutes or 5 minutes of me being like, this is everything. But yeah.
But yeah. CBT again. So, do you think the yoga actually really helped you, and that helped you to overcome the depression that you were feeling? Was there any other aspects? You said mindfulness as well, so that meditation, that you found that was really useful. So when you actually got there, in fact, you did all that research yourself, and you did the work yourself. You didn't actually need any other help.
Exactly. And I mean, it was quite, I don't know, like I'm sure there's a spectrum on this, and I think I was quite mild. So like I would always recommend that people seek professional help, but I absolutely would say that it was, and for me, it was the combination of all three things, which is why I do all three things in my business. But yeah, like I had life coaching, which is very like the coaching that I had and the coaching that I now do is very much based on like the framework of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the idea that your thoughts create your feelings, which create your actions. So looking at that interplay and assessing it. But then I find that like when you have like a breakthrough in your head, like it's not just in your head, often like when you feel things, like you feel them in like your whole body. And so like sometimes if you have a breakthrough, I'd like need like almost like a physical release. And so for me, doing the yoga alongside that, like just really like I felt like I was utilizing that kind of mind-body connection, and it just felt a lot more holistic to me. And like, you know, so I definitely had like, and I don't know if everybody has one at some point, but one of those sessions on the mat where at some point you just kind of feel really like overwhelmed emotionally and have a little cry. I don't know if anybody else.
Yeah, I think it's definitely we all go through that.
Yeah, like for me, it's kind of like those chest openers, but I think a lot of people have it like with like really hip opening sequences. But yeah, so for me, it was that, and it's not just the physical side of the yoga, although you know the asanas are, like have been really important for me. But I do think like, and I think it was when I was doing my yoga teacher training, looking into all the philosophy, all the underlying knowledge, like because this is like the human condition hasn't changed. Like fundamentally, we're still motivated by the same things. We all have the same problems. We all have the same, like on like a micro level, like we all have the same petty arguments with our like parents or in-laws or family members or whatever as they did like 5,000 years ago. It's just the only thing that's changed really is the technology that we use to interact with each other, you know. So but like all the things that people find important and that fundamentally motivate us and that hold us back are the same. And then like as I was like reading and studying the Yoga Sutras for my yoga teacher training, like I was reading things, and you know, like when someone manages to put into words a feeling that you thought only you ever had, it's like I feel so seen.
Helps you feel you feel seen and they can relate to you, and
so I was like, man, there is some serious wisdom in here, you know. It's tried and tested stuff that has worked for like generation after generation of people, like to really make a difference to like your day-to-day quality of life, and that ultimately help you to realize like your best self. But I really do think that, and so that's why for me, looking into the yamas and the niyamas and the other branches of that alongside, because the asana or asana practice is only one of those limbs. So obviously meditation is one of them. Well, I think meditation kind of is like two of them. Like my own personal interpretation of one is like hardcore meditation.
Hardcore meditation.
Yeah. That's not the official Sanskrit translation.
No. So just like staying for longer periods, or
pardon?
Staying for longer periods of time. Like transcendental meditation.
Yeah. But yeah, like for me, doing stuff like the like obviously I'm my main meditation practice is mindfulness, and I try to regularly do 10-minute meditations, like that's where I'm at the moment. At some point I'd love to be doing like longer ones, but I have to admit I haven't, like I have a really short attention span.
I think it just takes time, doesn't it, just to build up to it, and then you just your body just gets used to it, and I know it's coming now.
my brain is so trained for those dopamine hits of like looking at your phone or something. So I've recognized that I have that like 10 minutes I can definitely commit to, and like I'm hoping to increase like to longer. But yeah, like I have found all of these things like in combination to be so helpful, and that's why yoga isn't just the yoga practice. It is meditation, it's breathing techniques. Oh my goodness, how good are the, like I actually came across some science around, like, and not that there isn't already science, but like new to me information, and which is that when you breathe in, your heart rate increases like ever so slightly, and when you breathe out, it decreases ever so slightly. Like, so your heart rate is tied to like your breathing, And so if you do like a purposeful breath where you breathe in and try to extend your exhale, and like when you do, if you do 3 of those, like you immediately feel so much calmer. It's because you've actually lowered your heart rate. And I was like, wow, that's cool.
It is, yeah. It's interesting science. Yeah, I remember reading that when I was interested in the breath work, because it works for me. It works for everyone, even the clients that I work with. You just find, especially 4 square breathing, is such a simple technique to do, isn't it? And alternate nostril breathing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and like sometimes you're like, how does that work? And like, my question is always like, who discovered that?
Yeah.
How did you discover that?
I don't know. Yeah, who discovered it? Yeah. I haven't actually looked into that. Actually, who discovered? We didn't cover that on my yoga teacher training.
No, me neither. I didn't have the wherewithal to have a question at the time, but I was kind of like, what kind of day was that person having when they were like, I have invented
breathing technique? Yeah, that's going to lower your heart rate down, increase your heart rate, and then lower it down to regulate your body and the blood flow, to make you feel less stressed and more at ease. And that's what we all need, especially in these stressful circumstances like where we are right now.
Exactly.
So
with the so for me with the niyamas, so like I like there's the actual there's the application, like the very clear application that you can see within yoga, like saucha, and the cleanliness thing of like, if you try doing yoga with stinky feet, you're not going to have a nice but that actually, once you start to dig into it and be like, how can I apply that? Like, it's not just about like your like physical cleanliness, although like don't get me wrong, like yoga being what it's like has got like, I think there's like, if you want to do one, there's like a 30 step like cleaning program, like, you know, then like a neti pot, like to clean out your nose and all of that. But like also I think it's about cleaning out, like it's kind of cleaning out your mind of some of those little mind gremlins, or you know, whatever it is that you're like the things that are holding, like there's lots of kind of mental detritus that can be holding us back. And like that's like the whole like CBT thing of like the thoughts and then the emotions and then the action of being like, okay, so what thoughts am I having that aren't helping me get the feelings and then the emotions and then the action that I want to get the results that I want. And so like that's for me what I'm finding really interesting about the niyamas, like looking at each one and being like, okay, see how that fits in with yoga, and then being like, okay, and how does that fit in with life? Like, how does that fit in with me and my life right now? You know, so for Saucho, it's like, okay, so what are my limiting beliefs? Like, what sentences in my head don't serve me anymore that I really should take out?
To be able to deal with, and how would you deal with them in terms of using the niyamas in order to overcome the limiting beliefs, and which one in particular?
So, I mean, when it comes to limiting beliefs, there's quite a few different ways of kind of overcoming them. I mean, this is when like I like veer a little bit. This is kind of like the coaching side of those things. But like for me, when it's limiting beliefs, it's like looking at reframing those thoughts. So, you know, I don't know, like something like, I'm terrible with money. Like, is that a helpful thought for people to have? And what would be a better, like, how could we start moving towards something that's like, you know, and it's not always just immediately going to I'm fantastic with money and a millionaire, because often that's like not the case, but more just like I have some money, like, or a neutral phrase like I have money or whatever. But that's kind of more the coaching side on the like internal stuff. And then once you've kind of worked through that process, then like I like to set, like, if the stuff that I'm thinking about with that, like I like to use that potentially as an intention for the start of my next yoga practice. Because I don't know about you, but when I first started yoga, like years ago, I when my teacher would say set an intention for the session, and I'd be like, I don't get the question, like, isn't doing yoga the intention for the session?
Yeah, I suppose then, maybe you kind of thought that way, but then you think an intention of what you're going to get out of it and how it's going to make you feel, and if that is to do with like yoga itself and how it's going to transform you for the day specifically, if it's going to be to do with what you're going to be doing productively, basically. I think that going back to what you said about the CBT as well, it's going to add sort of to do with like thinking to yourself that is it a fact or assumption, where you're assuming something. I mean, is that fact, or are you just creating almost a story within your mind, and then from that you would reprogram your mind and think a different way? So I find that quite interesting. So I've been looking into that side of things recently.
Definitely. I mean, I love there's a coaching model that it expands on the CBT, but yeah, it's kind of being able to identify what is the circumstance, and that is kind of the actual like undisputable fact, and then the next thing is what is your thought. And a good kind of coaching activity is to extract the thought from what you think is a fact, because there's lots of assumptions, like things that we think are observations, like that is simply an observation, and it's like no, that is heavily loaded with all of your beliefs and thoughts and all that kind of stuff. So I love a good coaching session for being able to extract that, to go from what are the actual circumstances to then what are your thoughts, and then how are those thoughts making you feel. And I think the separation of those three things, the circumstance, the thought, and the feeling, I think a lot of people often forget, like consider the circumstance and the thoughts are the same thing to them, and also the thoughts and the emotions are kind of like, a lot of people feel that they're because when we feel emotions, they're so immediate, they're almost like reflex, aren't they? You almost feel the emotion before the thing has happened, and so you're like, I didn't have time to think a thought, but actually your brain did. Like your brain is so much faster than like your actual like the I think it's like 80-20. 80% of the population have an actual like monologue, like that, like talking, like a voice in their head. And if you're not that person, then I don't know how your brains work, how a thought materializes without an actual voice giving voice to it. But that voice is a bit slower than your emotions, but the thought, like your brain can have a thought run through the neural pathways to generate that emotion, and you know that it's a thought because afterwards you could say, why did you feel that way? And you can generally come out with like, because of this, because of that, how dare they, or whatever it is. And it's like, they were all the thoughts your brain had there. Your brain immediately went down those pathways and came up to the emotion at the end of those thoughts. And so it's a case of being like, okay, well, what new thoughts do you want to like code into your brain? And that's like all around like the neuroplasticity stuff and neural pathways, but I could geek out.
Well, that's good though. I think definitely you do have that assumption of what you think, especially with a certain person. If there's any conflict there, you might automatically just assume that person feels a certain way about me, and there is conflict there. But it might be a lot deeper than that. It could be to do with how they feel about themselves. their insecurities. So having that almost different perspective and awareness around it, then you're able to approach it in a different way. So I'm quite fascinated by that, because it allows you to be able to take a step back. I feel these tools are so useful. And then a lot of them that, yeah.
And that's why I like, that's why I like coaching, because I feel like coaching is for people who don't have. It's like CBT for people who didn't fail the test to qualify for CBT, or it's for people who are not in psychological distress. They don't have like a diagnosed mental health issue, but like there's still so much goodness that we have, like so many tools that we have that can be applied in that scenario, like to people who aren't in crisis or whatever, to make their lives better. And like, shouldn't we all be striving to be our best self? I mean, that's what yoga is about, isn't it? Like the fundamental heart of what yoga is about is that.
I just got a message. I'm just going to read the message. So I'm too easily distracted. I start with 5 minutes meditations, and I set a time of 5 minutes to do things because I'm that distracted. I think it just takes, especially with meditation, when you're first starting out, incremental steps of 3 minutes to 5 minutes is the best decision you can make, because you have to build up to it. Anyone telling me any differently, be able to do 10 minutes is almost too long, because I think we were so distracted by social media. It's in our face all the time, and like you mentioned from the start as well, always looking at your phone. And do you ever feel that?
I get jittery, like, where's my phone? Where's my phone? And my husband's like, you're addicted to your phone. You should put it down more. And I'm like, but I don't want to put it down more. Like,
it's hard, isn't it? But I think you get so used to it. You get so used to having a device there. It almost feels like I need this something in my hand. Maybe it could be sort of psychological. You need something in your hand, and you need to be able to look at it. Or it could be to do with your emails. It could be anything, couldn't it? You just need to find out what's going on.
That's partly why I like mindfulness meditation, because the mindfulness meditations, and I mean, there's all different types of meditation, but like mindfulness is like observing your thoughts. So this is probably like really popular, but like when I was taught, like probably like a really huge meme or something, but when someone told it to me, like I was like, I get it. So like whenever we see pictures of, say, like Tibetan monks meditating in a mountain top, they look so still and so calm from the outside that we assume that their mind is as clear and empty and thought free as they look like externally. But actually what's going on inside underneath that calm surface could be like an entire tornado. Like so the idea, like, and I think so many people are like, I just have to clear my mind of all thoughts, and as soon as you say stop thinking, then I don't know about you, but like I get a little voice going, well, that was a thought just there. You telling me to stop thinking was a thought, and then you pointing that out is also a thought, and then you're like, for Pete's sake, how am I supposed to do this? Whereas the mindfulness meditation is just like, the ones that I like, the ones that are like where you're not trying to force thoughts out of your head, but just observe them and be like, oh, hello, thought. That was interesting of you to pop up. And then just kind of let it, then there's none of that forcing an empty mind. Like, maybe I'll get there one day, but
no, that's right. I think it would be like it's a curiosity, isn't it? Being curious. Yeah. The thoughts have popped up, and depending on if it's negative or positive, and you're going into meditation, just being aware of that. Well, I personally just always focus on my breath. Always bring my body back to my breath, and always suggest that that's the best thing to do. So then you've got something to focus on. So unless we have anything to focus on, then our mind is wandering all the time. I think we have 10,000 thoughts a day, maybe more.
Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it? So did you want to hear my thoughts on the other niyamas?
Of course, yes. Yeah, it'd be great to hear.
Although I just need to pull something up in front of me just because to remind myself of what they are and all that kind of thing. So yeah, the next one is the santosha, which is around contentment, and I think this one's a really huge one that can help with like general well-being and mood, because like the studies that have been done on things like gratitude, like having gratitude for what's in your life and for appreciating what you have, like it's really great to be ambitious and to want more and more and more, you know. And we can even do this within yoga, you know. We're always pushing ourselves to like the net, like, you know, what's the next challenging asana for us, you know, like whatever it is that we want. And if you're constantly on the chase, you're never going to be happy, because even when you get there, like you're going to have like a moment of like, woohoo, I did the pincher, or I did like a handstand or a headstand, but then you're like, right, well, now I want to be able to like get into that headstand from this weird posture. And then it's like, well, where's the joy in your life if you're constantly like that? So being able to have that contentment and celebration of your life right now, like you can immediately see why that would make you a happier person.
Yeah, because I think otherwise you are just automatically just constantly striving for the next day. I think that's fine though. I mean, in terms of being ambitious, but in terms of being happy, being happy right now, and being grateful for people around you and what you already have, in order for more to come into your life. Because otherwise we just cause ourselves so much stress, don't we, otherwise?
Exactly. And so it's really like a really nice little exercise for this is to do like I want, like, I mean, because like often, like, you know, thoughts go to our head, I'm like, oh, I want this, I want that, I want blah 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 blah, you know. So I could look around me and stuff that I want for my office, and, you know, things that I might want for, I want that hair product, or it's, you know, I want that for my dinner or whatever. So it's do a little exercise of saying I want, and there's 5 things that you really want but that actually you already have. So like, I want a loving husband, actually have that, so hooray me. So like that, so that you have kind of that, do you know what, like I want a lot of the things that I have. And so then you know, then it's like that gratitude thing. And also I think that also is a great exercise for it takes you kind of out of wanting from a place of scarcity to like more of being like of abundance, if that makes sense. Like, I invite you to give it a go at some point and see, you know,
That's interesting. That's interesting what you said about what you want, because that what come to mind was writing down like what you want and why you want it. But I was thinking of, if you want to change your state, that was what my thought was going to. Change your state of mind. You're in a negative thought, you'd be like, what do you want and why do you want it to make yourself feel better? So it's interesting that you used it in a way. What you already have could be, you might already have what you want right now.
Yeah.
What you want right now, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, remind yourself that there's lots of things that you want that you already have. Like, and kind of, it kind of puts it into context and just is a nice little activity there. The next niyama is, it's like, not, I don't know, I don't want to play favorites with any of them, but like the one I'm working on the most, like both personally and also with a lot of the clients that I'm coaching at the moment, is tapas, which obviously as soon as I say that I'm thinking chorizo and patatas bravas, but it's actually it's around it's a lot of people think of it more as like discipline, but I love there's a, I think it means like heat or fire. And this is a really interesting one. So within yoga, it's that idea of like, you know, like to achieve like the bigger goal, the bigger vision within yoga, like it's like, you know, you need to turn up and you need to be practicing you need to be practicing regularly. You need to show up on the mat with like, we all know that if you did like a 90-minute yoga session once a year, you're not going to see, you know, you might, you probably won't enjoy that session if you're doing it a year in between. But,
you
know, you get you get the results from pretty much everything in life where there's like big results that we had. Like you only get them by doing them on the regular, consistently. You know, it's like that whole compound interest thing. So like when you're saving money, got to do that on the regular. Like exercise, got to do it on the regular. Healthy eating, got to do it on the regular. So within the yoga philosophy, you know, this thing about, you know, you need to build that discipline within yourself to turn up on the mat on the regular. But then around, like, because it's such a poetic language, like the heat metaphor like has like takes you in so many different ways. So some of it is like the overcoming the friction that you have against taking the action. So it's kind of around like getting unrolling the mat and doing a class, even though at the time you're like, I don't really want to get off the sofa, or I don't want to get up early, or I just want to go to bed, like whenever you choose to practice. And that it's like that, so that heat, that friction, and how the heat that you generate from that friction and overcoming it ultimately transforms you. So that the process of turning up and showing up for yourself to do the work is as important as the actual work itself, because it changes you as a person. And like I just like, I find that so like, I just like such a lovely concept to think about in my head.
Powerful, isn't it? And that we're focusing on our well-being and putting ourselves first, and that's where you should be, you know, thankful. Thank yourself that you actually took that time out. I did this for me. Now, maybe I didn't feel like it, but I did that for me, in order to make my day better, in order to build my productivity and my health and wellness, including the nutrition.
It's that thing of like, okay, so you know that when you turn up, like when you like, you know, like let's say if you were to commit to a daily yoga practice, you know that at the end of that, like you're gonna see physical changes in your body from having done a yoga practice every day. But this idea is also the discipline it took you to commit to that and stick to that and show up to that, even when there was days that you felt like you didn't want to, has mentally changed you as well. It had, like, just being able to do that has made you a stronger person and taking you closer to your goal. It's kind of like that whole thing, like, you know, the journey is as important as the destination. And so I'm finding this really powerful and interesting. And it's also around that heat thing is also making sure that you don't burn out.
Yeah, that's so important, isn't it?
You know, again, like, if you were like, is it feasible for you to commit to a daily yoga practice? Are you going to be one of those people who's like, right, I'm going to do 30 days yoga every day and then not do yoga for 2 months afterwards because it all got too much for you? It's about like what, like, kind of getting that like sustainable thing. Like it's
like a balance, isn't it? To find that balance in order for you, so it feels like I can do this, and it is doable. And I'm also pushing myself, but maybe I'm not pushing myself really, really hard. Because you want to be smart, don't you? In whatever you do, you just want to have a more of a smart approach rather than that I'm going to do this, I'm going to get there, and I'm going to grind. It's pushing yourself to that extent.
Yeah, it's that thing of how do I force myself to keep taking action, and it's like, you know, some of it is like, yeah, you need to keep taking action, but also I would say within this is looking at if you are forcing yourself, why is that resistance there? Where is the resistance, and why is it there? And what, like, how could you look at that? But yeah, this one's a really good one because, like, I think for lots of people who have a big goal, you know, and ultimately within yoga there is a bigger goal, you know, it's this kind of enlightenment kind of, you know, one with the universe kind of, which is, you know, pretty big. And it's the thing of putting one foot in front of the other and keeping going at it. And that's like a really important skill, not just for yoga, but like for so much that we do. As I mentioned, anything that has like a really worthwhile result at the end of it generally will take consistent effort to get there. And for people who have like a really big goal, like if they have like was that like big hairy audacious goal or whatever, I can't remember what it's called, but like a, you know, something like that's really exciting but also a little bit.
Which one?
Yeah. Sorry?
What was it called, sorry?
Yes, Svadhyaya. And then the first program I'll be launching is the Tapas one, because it's my favourite at the moment.
That's really interesting. Yes, very interesting to hear about the niyamas and how they correspond. That's really interesting. Thank you so much for coming on today, Lorna. It was really, really nice to chat to you and find out about yourself.